was fun. Duke beats Clemson 67-54. They did it behind a just dominating defensive effort, and it was a collective defensive effort. Everybody chipped in. This was the Duke defense that we saw in the California trip and then the Louisville game, and in the Virginia Tech game as well. We haven't quite seen this level in the games in between. It was great to see that come back. And it was really everybody, but it was certainly led by Cam. I thought Cam's effort, and that was with him playing basically the entire game, was outstanding. He was fighting for boards. He was positioning well, but I just thought defensively, and some of it may be the matchup, but I just thought he was getting deflections. He was just really engaged on the defensive end of the court, and then he didn't quite get his 20 and 10. He finished, I think, with 18 and 7. But, boy, the guy is just the Terminator with consistency. You just know he's going to go get his numbers.
Well, first of all, happy Valentine's Day. And second of all, please, like this show, subscribe to our show. It helps us grow. But today's performance was elite defense, just elite. I mean, I know that Clemson doesn't score a lot, but you pointed out Cam's defense. I want to say that Sarr was at his best in terms of defense. I thought Evans was good. I thought Pat, unfortunately, picked up 2 quick fouls, kind of took him out. But that when Pat was on, he is such a presence in there. I thought that the defense all the way, and even a spark from Humenya, that he may be coming back. We saw a lot of nice little efforts, and then he hit his 3, almost hit 2, but looked like he was into it. And so all around team effort to hold Clemson, who's a good team, not a great scoring team, but a good team. I mean, it was 57 or 56?
4.
54 points?
Yep.
Went from the 3-pointer at the end went from 51 to 54. Okay. I mean, for a while there, it looked like they may not get to 50. That's a hell of a defensive performance, and a nice Valentine's present for everybody. Not a lot of tension in this one. We kept saying in the first half when they were up, we said, well, it's 5 points, 6 points, 7 points. We know the game's going to be below 10.
Yeah.
And didn't see the extent to which Duke's defense and the lack of offense from Clemson would result in what was an easy game to watch, which was a nice present.
100%. And buried the lead a little bit. Also, forgot to get you set up with our new microphone here, so that's on me. Maybe we'll do that in the middle of the show here. But a little inside baseball there. We forgot to mention the biggest aspect of this game, which is Big Pat. Didn't expect him to be out there for this one. I know that went into a good amount of my prediction for this game. I figured with Pat we would be just fine, but I was worried without Pat. What's interesting about that is he picked up 2 quick fouls. The first one, I thought, here we go again,
Phantom.
Yeah. The second one, I was like, okay, he fouled him for sure. And then he had to sit the rest of the first half. And Duke's up 31-26 in the first half. So they still were able to hold the lead over a good Clemson team and play really good defense without Pat for most of the first half. And then you separate in the second half with Pat because he's just so important for this Duke team. Really good to have him back out there. I thought he had an impact despite not necessarily having a big game in the box score. You mentioned Dame. I mean, I know the missed layup is going to get a lot of talk, but I just thought he had a really good game doing a lot of, you mentioned the defense, but I thought he did a really good job of connecting offensively, rebounding, um, and then he knocked down a couple of threes as well, which is what we need from him in terms of just spacing the floor, being a consistent corner three guy. So I thought Dame had a great game, and then Slim was knocking down shots. I mean, we were watching the game together. You said it was just one of those games where it felt like it was Duke's, well, not night, but afternoon. And I guess we should have known when. And Isaiah takes a horrible shot in the first minute of the game, and it banks in. And from there, not necessarily immediately afterwards, but Isaiah was able to get himself going, knocking down several jumpers. We start off the second half with a Cam to Evans three, which has become something we've seen quite a lot from Duke this season. So it was really nice to get Evans going early, and then Cam was able to kind of score more in the second half. What do you think of Evans' performance today?
I thought he was it, it was very good. It's not like, one of those games where we go, oh God, he's just out of control on offense. But what he is now also finding that identity. Good for 15 points, I think, thereabouts. But also good defense, good part of the offensive flow, good communication. And so it's more of a well-rounded effort coming out of Evans. And therefore, we know that Slim will take his shots. It's just who he is. And, there's some games where it's 3-4 in a row. It's a barrage. That didn't happen today. Not the way that, we were saying at halftime that Cam had 8 points. And then we said, how's he going to get to his 20 and 10? And he had that 8-point, 2 3-pointers and dunk in the space of what seemed like a minute and 10 or something. And so all around, it was one of those Duke games that we haven't always had the ability to watch, but felt like it was good. And to the degree, we're always very intense in our observations of the game. And sometimes, our listeners, will comment that we're too critical. Well, this is a Duke podcast. We're picking apart the offense, the defense, always trying to strive for how will they perform in the ACC tournament, and then what could it possibly portend for March Madness.
And we're getting very close to our big test that we've had circled for a long time. So we're one game, and then we get to talk about that. And we talked about Dame, Cam, of course, Slim, Pat being out there. But I think one guy who we haven't mentioned who had a really great game was Caden. I thought Caden did a really good job defensively, and then he was able to get going playing off of his brother. Obviously they have great chemistry together, so they have a good knack of finding each other. But Caden did a really good job finishing. The one time he missed the shot, he was able to get his own rebound and hit a buzzer beater floater. He had a really great afternoon today, and hopefully he can use this and have some consistency moving forward. But I felt like the past couple of games he's been doing just fine, and that's really important for Duke, as this team is looking to figure out how many guys, maybe not the team, but Shire is certainly looking to figure out how many guys can he trust, and how many guys can he get consistent out performances from. And Caden's certainly been in the top 7 in the past handful of weeks for sure. I would say Nick has been 8, and then Darren is obviously 9. And then lastly, in terms of the positives, well, did we talk about Nick?
Well, I was just going to say that I was surprised when I saw how many minutes he did get to play. Um,
Yeah, let's pull up
so,
those stats.
yeah, go to the stats.
I mean, just quickly in terms of, because the story of this game is the defense for
Yep.
Duke. Clemson shot 35% from the field, 25% from three. 35%, they showed the graphic. It did change slightly, but it was still their lowest field goal percentage performance of the season. I know Clemson's not a great offensive team, but they're not bad either. They're still top 60 or so on Ken Palm. And they got a lot of different guys. You never know whose night it's going to be. And I thought Duke just did a really good job of taking away the. RJ Godfrey certainly was scoring early, but for the most part, Duke did a really good job taking away the interior scoring options for Clemson. And Clemson shooting 24 threes is not what they want to do. It's just not what they want to do. So I thought it was a really tremendous team defensive performance by Duke. And Cam, I thought he led the way. Played basically the entirety of this game. 18 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, only 1 turnover, 2 steals and a block for Big Cam. Pat ends up playing 19 minutes, 6 points, 6 boards, 3 assists for Big Pat. Dame, 6 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. But, in a similar way to our guy Malik, impact much bigger than what the box score numbers would suggest there for Dame. Evans, 17 points, 4 threes, 4 rebounds, a couple of steals. Foster, 3 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Malik had 6 rebounds, couple assists, and a block. Nick had 5 points and 2 rebounds. Caden had 12 points and 3 assists. So a lot of guys contributed in this one. Off the bench, I thought Malik and Nick gave us good minutes. Hustling, playing good defense. They didn't necessarily score a lot, but Nick was able to knock down a 3, hit a nice post move really on Davidson for Clemson in the first half. That seemed to give him some confidence. We saw him hit the floor. He was diving. We hadn't seen that in a couple of games. So really nice effort, from Nick in this one, and Malik did his thing.
So two comments. One is, at times I almost felt like Clemson was haunted by the number of consecutive losses in Cameron. And that as a result of that, it's like they almost played like, we always lose here. So, all right. Their effort was not, it just wasn't as strong as it should be for a team that is playing this well overall, though maybe as of late they had 1 or 2 hiccups. And the other thing that was sort of surprising, that was when Duke had built the lead to like 17 points, 19 points with about 5 minutes to go. I thought there was a really good opportunity for Coach Shire to rest Big Pat with his wrist and his fingers. Cam had certainly played enough by then, and so I wasn't certain why they didn't come out earlier and give those minutes to Darren, give those minutes even to Nick, who did get 17 minutes, which is about where I think feels about right. So I think the 2 observations. Some of the heart wasn't in it for Clemson. They didn't battle. Yes, the first half, the score was fairly. Duke didn't have a big lead, but we were playing without Big Pat. We didn't think we'd have him, but he started. It was like his Willis Reed moment, and then he came out. And the same thing in the second half. So I didn't see the heart, the fire of a Clemson team that should be there. So
I don't know.
This is my only.
I don't know. Like I felt like they were competing. They just weren't hitting shots. And a lot of that I thought was Duke's defense. So I didn't necessarily look at it like they were dispirited in terms of Clemson. Um, but your point on Shire, if there's one thing I was critical of Shire in a game where Duke wins by 13 against a top 25 team, I felt like he could have pulled Cam, to your point earlier, given Darren a little bit more of a run. I thought Darren played really well in the Pittsburgh game, and to only get 2 minutes, it's hard for me to even. He missed both his threes, but I'm sure he kind of feels like if he's got a sliver of space, this might be the only shot opportunity I get today. So I got to get this one up. I'm sure that's some of what's going into it. I thought one of his shots was a little bit rushed. The other one was a good look. They didn't happen to go in. He rotates over. He gets dunked on. Not his fault. He did the right thing there. And to your point, for him not to come back into this game, I thought with 8 minutes to go, you could have given him an opportunity to play, the last stretch there. So obviously we don't know what's going on in practice, but from what we've seen in the games, I feel like he's improved defensively. I think he's played better on that end of the court, and therefore his shooting is valuable for this team. So I wish he would have got a little bit more run. And then the only other thing for me in this game, in terms of things I think that Duke could do better, is I felt like, and this isn't a team thing, this is an individual thing, I didn't think Caleb Foster had a good decision-making game today offensively. I thought his defense was good, but I thought there was a couple of times where he forced the issue. And then, more importantly to me, I thought there was, at the end of the first half, there was probably like a 6-second differential between the shot and game clock, somewhere in that range. And I felt like he drove with, 20 seconds to go, and he takes a contested layup, and it ends up, he misses, and Clemson gets 15 seconds to work. They don't score, but it was just an opportunity to give to a good team like Clemson a chance to cut the lead. And I just thought, I feel like this year he's done a really good job of managing the game and making good decisions. And I didn't think that was the case today offensively. Defensively, he did his thing, but I just didn't think this was a good decision-making game for Foster in this one.
It's one of the things we'd been critical of him, at various points in the season, when he takes the ball into the middle and you see like three guards, three defensive players on him, and you're like wondering, where is he going? What is his thought? Who does he have to kick it out to? And there was a little bit of that, but boy, I'm struggling to figure out what I want to pick on in today's game. So
that's it. That's all I had.
That's it.
It's Shire. I wish he would have, given Darren some more minutes at the end there, and Foster the decision making. But other than that, this was, we've talked about it at times. Can they put together 40 minutes? This was 40 minutes of really good basketball and great to amazing defense as a collective. I know Clemson, they don't have a guy necessarily, so it makes it, you could argue it makes it easier. I've argued the other way, it makes it harder. But to be sitting there playing a good team like Clemson, and there's 10 minutes to go in the game, and, completely relaxed. Didn't feel a threat. And this was the type of win that Duke needed right now, this part of the season. Let's see them build on it in the Syracuse game, and obviously got the big one coming up with Michigan.
Well, it's funny because we've often said that they play to the level of their opponent. And so we both expected them to win today, but for it to be a closer game, our predictions were a little bit off in terms of.
But hold on, just one quick interjection there. We both were doing that with the assumption of Pat not playing, which is a big deal. He's the second most important player on this team.
Well, agreed, but he still got less than 20 minutes today because of fouls again. So,
No, but
um,
I'm. We'll. I'll have the data tomorrow, but I think the difference in this game being a 13-point win and a single-digit win, a 5-point win is really where I thought this was going to be. Was Pat playing a lot in the second half? Because he played 19 minutes. I think he played 4 in the first half. So we win the first half by 5. We win the second half by 8. It's not necessarily a huge difference, the 8 and 5, but I feel like his presence really helped Duke on both ends of the court.
I think that's absolutely true because there's things that happen because of his size. So he can get to a ball, he can, that might be going out of bounds, a high rebound that might go out to Clemson, he can pull it in. Having him on the court is absolutely essential. But I'll still say there's something about playing to the level of our opponent so that uh, when we do the pregame for the Syracuse, it'll be interesting to see, what happens in that game. Do we again regress to the mean, or do we actually say, no, we're going to punish them and win by 25 points, 30 points? This year, it's more likely that we'll play at Syracuse, so we won't play as hard. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, they've shown us throughout the year that they get up for the bigger games. They really have. And this was a bigger game. This was an opportunity against the team that was tied for second in conference play. Fortunately, the Syracuse game is at home for Duke, and it's a quick turnaround because we got to do this preview tomorrow. So it's going to be Monday night and then a good amount of time off before the Michigan game there the following Saturday. Medals for today. I'm going with Cam for the gold. I think he just had across the board outstanding game. At times this year I've been very critical of Cam's defense. I thought he was outstanding defensively today. The steals early, which led to Duke points, and then he has his the 8-point run himself, but then it's punctuated by a big block. He had deflections. He was moving his feet. He was sound positionally. He just had an awesome game. Silver,
And he also seemed to be getting stronger. We kept saying, give him a rest. And it was like he almost, after that 8-point run and the block shot, you could almost have imagined that Shire would have said, all right, come on, take a blow. And he said, no, I want to play.
yeah, it was like he was playing angry.
Yeah,
Like
he was great.
He was disappointed in his last 2 performances, which for 99% of players in college basketball, you'd say good performances. But for him, we know they're a little bit below his standard, and he said so himself. So he was fantastic. Silver, I'm going with Slim. I thought his shooting was really important for Duke in this game, finishing with 17 points, setting the tone, and then also playing really well defensively. And then lastly, bronze, I'm going with Caden. I thought he had a really complete game. 12 points, the 3 assists, really good defense, really important play for Duke to have Caden playing better as we're almost there, guys. We are very close to March here. We are almost there. So let's head over to the chat here. More 007, heck of a win. Still didn't hit 70, but nonetheless, that was an impressive win. I'll own it that I was wrong for doubting the boys in this game, but I assumed Big Pat wasn't playing. Yeah. I mean, we did too. More. I thought I was gonna get at least the Duke side right. I thought Evans had a 3 at the end of the game that would have got Duke to 70, but alas, did not get there. To your point. But I thought Clemson in the pregame would score more. And so really impressive Duke defensive performance here. Laura, Cooper, Man, and Proctor in the house. Happy 40th to Krzyzewskiville. It's good to see those guys courtside. We missed those guys. And quick Duke in the NBA pause here. We've got Khan coming up in just a few hours in the 3-point contest. I got my money on him. I got my money. How could you not, Mr. Knipple? Really excited to watch him in just a few hours win the 3-point contest.
I think he will win it because the one thing we know about Khan, no moment is too big for him. Yep. And so playing in a 3-point competition, he'll just think he's playing with his dad and his brothers.
I'm sure. I'm sure they've had all the Knipples out there. They're setting up, the stands so he can practice getting the ball off of it. He's got his younger brothers helping re-rack the ball. I'm sure he's ready. I'm sure he's been practicing, over the last couple of weeks, getting ready for the 3-point contest. It's going to be fun to watch him out there. GMAT, great defensive effort. Nice way to out defense. Clemson, Caden had a great game too. Sarr scored again. And Hemenia had a few good plays, though a poor last 4 minutes, especially since we've been worried about losing leads in the second half lately. Maybe that is part of why Shire kept them out on the court, but I think some of the slippage there was just the starters, there wasn't any game pressure at that point. And so I wonder if we had gone to the bench, if those guys would have played with a little bit more intensity, knowing that they're trying to prove I should be playing, rather than the starters still being in there just trying to, in many ways, just get to the end of the game. Laura says, happy Valentine's Day to my fellow Duke fans. And GMAT adds Dickie V Day as well. Good to have Dickie V in the building for this one. Lawrence Freeman, a good win at home. Caden ran the team exceptionally well in the second half. Caden had a great game. He really did. GMAD, in reference to the Gangba foul call, first 3 Duke fouls, no calls against Clemson. Weird deja vu from the UNC game the other day. I was wondering if we'd somehow ended up playing Clemson in the Dean Dome. Yeah, fortunately that evened out pretty quickly for Duke. But that first call, I was like, man, like, what did Pat do to these refs? Like, these guys, they're on him. What has he done? But thankfully we were able to, that didn't continue. Laura says UNC is down not just Wilson, they are also down Vasar against Pitt today. We will truly see who they are without them. I will say if they're going to have any game where they're not going to have both of those guys, and I had no idea that Vasar was hurt, so I imagine that's going to be a one-game thing. Sorry, I'm just seeing the Amazon guy running up and down the driveway here. Good for him getting his steps in there. But if you're going to miss your front court, it's probably a good game against Pitt, who doesn't necessarily have the biggest of front courts. So North Carolina guards are going to have to do a lot more of the lifting than they have throughout this season. GMAT, rematch should be at least a 20-point Duke victory without their front court and without home court refs spotting them 10 points. Michigan is the most interesting game left. Though it'll be interesting to see if we outclass Virginia like we did Clemson today. I guess a few comments there. Duke, North Carolina, lots of crazy things happen. So I'm not going to get to the 20 points, but to your point, it should be. I agree without Wilson. Yeah, Michigan, I can't wait till we're breaking down that one. I'm really looking forward to that game. And I think Virginia just they're not as good defensively as Clemson, but they're more well-balanced, and they've got more options offensively, like more weapons offensively than this Clemson team. So I think it's going to be a much closer game. But I did think this was going to be a close game, so what do I know? Let's see. Laura says to me, a bad shot is not one that hits the rim or rolls around the basket and just doesn't bounce or roll through the basket. a bad shot to me is an air ball. To me, Laura, it's not necessarily about the result. It's about um, what's the word? The process. So when I say like Evans had a bad shot, sometimes we know Isaiah Evans shoots bad shots and they go in, which happens quite a bit. But it's about not necessarily does the ball hit the rim or like even an air ball. Sometimes an air ball was a good shot. If you're wide open, it's a good shot. It's necessarily about like did we move the ball? Did we work for a good shot? Was the guy open? That's kind of what I'm looking for. Did we rush the shot? So that's kind of where I'm looking for with the shot selection.
I'll let
Go ahead.
Jack. I'll add to that often when you're hitting the front of the rim, it could be your legs, and when you're hitting the back of the rim, I'm talking about misses. It's it's more of your mechanics are off, and a lot of times I see them hit the front of the rim, and I wasn't surprised. Like when Big Pat at the free throw line, Big Pat missed his first shot from the free throw line, and I said I could see that coming a mile away. Hasn't been in rhythm, injury, out of the game, and so shooting is a really interesting thing. It is a law of percentages, and it is something to do with flow. And that's where Isaiah, you live with his bad shots because his flow during the course of a game can just result in 3-4 baskets in a row. And there's no one else on Duke other than nasty Cam Boozer today when he just said, I'm playing, I'm just taking over here. And
he's so Cam is so versatile offensively. I think that's where when I see a lot of comments about his ability to translate to the NBA, they clearly don't watch. I think that's really what it comes down to. They just see the highlights or whatever. But his different ways to score today was the three. The three really opened up his game. The alley-oop was crazy in terms of we don't typically see that level of athleticism from Cam with his scoring. To your point, those are the two guys who can get off for bursts for Duke.
The only thing, one other thing there, because as we always project to March Madness,
yeah,
Cam was at 77% from the free throw line, and then I think he went 4 for 4. So maybe he's at 78, almost near that magic 80%, which is great. Pat, I think, wound up 3 for 4. I don't have the stats in front of me. And Slim, the worst thing you could do is to foul that guy from 3-point range. He's could be a 40% free 3-point shooter, but he's almost a 90%. What I'm getting at there, Jack, is in a tight game, they foul our guards. And that is going to be a problem as you go deeper and deeper in March Madness.
Yeah, we're going to have to kind of scheme around that. We got to get the ball.
Although, I say that, and then I have to correct myself. I think Caden's also up to the upper 70s in free throw shooting.
Take a look. Look it up. I'll keep going here.
Okay.
GMAD makes some points about more impactful piece to him is role players being productive, Sarr scoring, but then also Nick and Caden's performances off the bench. I agree. We need to get more consistent production from the rest of the guys on this team. Darren Harris is still an open question. He needs to start hitting his threes to get more minutes, though. Feel like his defense has improved a bit. I agree. I think Darren's defense has improved a bit. I just think it's really hard to judge him fairly when he just plays 2-3 minutes. When he plays 10 minutes, it's much more fair. GMAT also says we saw more defensive energy and shooting confidence from Nick today, which is a good sign. Crashing the glass too offensively, even when he didn't get the rebound. I saw that one like later in the second half. He was very close to getting like a putback or a layup or something, so I really like that. Laura, the steal and dunk that Cam had early in the game, that was awesome. Duke's first like offensive possession was like stagnant, so it was really good to get that early bucket. And then GMAD and Laura commenting on Clemson's effort. GMAD agreed with me, thinking it was more there. And Laura, it's a good point that Clemson had no effort against Virginia Tech on Wednesday. I think part of that for me, JD, is watching them play Wednesday compared to today. They looked much more engaged today than they did on Wednesday. So that's why that's where I was coming from with that.
So Jack, 23-2. So I'm looking at stats that only include 24, not today. Cam was at 77%.
No, that includes today. If you're saying we're 23-2, if we're 22-2, then it's not including today.
Yeah, no. That's what I'm saying. The stats that I've got here at Duke are for 24 games and therefore don't include today.
Right.
Okay. So Cam, 77% from the free throw line, and I think he improved. Isaiah, 88% from the free throw line. Big Pat has been coming up at 68%. He's probably near 70. Caden is at 76%. And so that leaves Caleb, whose hand the ball will be in. He's a 55% free throw shooter. Mystifying, but that's what he is. And that is problematic. Good news that I was wrong on Caden, that if it's in his hands, he is a 76% free throw shooter. Nick, 70%. And Malik is only 50%. Not worried about that. And if Darren's in, he's a 70% free throw shooter. So all in all, pretty good, other than Caleb, quarterback, controlling the pace, foul him, 50% really free throw shooter.
GMAD says he thinks Shire kept the starters in. He's trying to get them to finish games. I get that, but I don't know. I didn't think it was necessary today, and especially with Big Pat coming back from injury, I just didn't want anybody to pick up something in the last handful of minutes in a game where it felt like Duke had it in hand. Michael Joyner says, overall good game. Agreed. And Tropic, uniform, big win, go Duke. Nothing like some get back for last year. Shire is now 2-2 against Clemson. Shout out to Laura for that stat. Joe M. Wish Caden would develop his outside shot a little bit more. He's at, if you want to round up, 32% for the season. Love what he can do inside and with his passing. Yeah, his form on his three is not. It's kind of like a shot put almost.
Yep.
So it's not going to be something where I think this year it's ever going to be great. It's more something he'd have to develop over the summer. Because I imagine at this point he is not going to the NBA next year, unlike his brother. So he'll have some time to work on that. It is, but against certain teams, that's going to be problematic because he's not as good of a shooter as Foster. But I think in those games, Foster's probably going to play more than Caden. So it's nice to have the different options because Caden's inside scoring has been really coming along in these last handful of weeks. And then Tropic Uniform on that topic saying it was good to see him in double figures. I think he's still trying to get used to the speed and physicality of the game. He's not his brother. He's a more typical freshman. It's going to take time for him to kind of figure it out, and we're seeing him play better here of late. Laura says if the girl last year would have just not mopped the baseline last year, and she actually mopped where the players were standing, Cooper would have never slipped, and Duke would have won that game.
It is pretty remarkable that we can remember that he slips to lose a game, and in the Houston game, he hits the front of the rim to lose the game. Embedded in our memory as crazy Duke fans that we all are we know exactly where Coop was and what happened.
Well, I'll take it a step further. I remember the Kentucky game. Coop, he may have been able to pass it to Khan, who was open at the end of that game, and I think he hits the front of the rim there. And then I think in the Kansas game, Khan had to force up a shot late, and I think he had Coop open, which could have given Duke the lead there. So all the losses they're seared in our memory. Maybe next year they'll slowly start dripping away, but this year they still seem fresh. And it's amazing we're still talking about that team. It is February, and this team is 23-2. It goes to show you what last year's team, the mark that last year's team had on all of us here. Joe M., the only bad thing about Clemson losing is it didn't help the ACC looking good narrative. Well, I understand where you're coming from there. Unfortunately, Duke has to win the game.
Yeah.
It doesn't help Duke to lose it, but with Clemson, I think what really hurts is Clemson losing the game to Virginia Tech. Even though it was understandable with them coming back from the California trip, they're probably not going to be ranked after this week, which is unfortunate. And then you combine that with North Carolina losing Wilson, NC State, who I thought was playing better basketball, just getting crushed by Louisville earlier this week. Maybe Louisville's, going to turn the corner and start playing like the team I thought they're capable of. But I think Virginia is going to end up being the second best team here.
If Clemson's ranked 20,
yeah,
then if they're not ranked, they'd have to fall, 5 spots, I guess. 6 spots. I think playing at Cameron on the road, they'll drop 2 or 3 slots. I don't think it'll be much more than that.
What you're missing is they also lost Wednesday. That's what I'm including in.
That was the Virginia Tech game.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And I don't
All
think.
right.
I think both things on their own are understandable. You lose to Virginia Tech, who's a bubble team. They're not a bad team by any means, but you're at home. It was off of the California trip, which is a tough turnaround. Fortunately, Duke had a week off, basically. Clemson only had 3 days. So in and of itself, I think understandable. But I think the thing we've learned in following the polls weekly, that
2 losses.
It's 2 losses. And the writers, they just don't have time to understand why each team lost. They are just looking at, did you win or did you lose? And they're going to have 2 losses. So I just think they're going to drop off. GMAD, the shot clock violations, I think we forced 3 or 4 in this game.
What? Just great D.
Just great team defense. Where did I go here? Let's see. Beautiful basketball. Tropic uniform. Duke showing out against Michigan would be huge. Can't look past Syracuse, though. On the road in only 24 hours, or only 48 hours, too always tricky. I believe the Syracuse game is home, fortunately. If it was on the road, I'd be a bit more concerned, but I mean, Syracuse earlier this year, they almost beat Houston, and they only lost because they shot 42% or something from the free throw line. I know we complain about Duke's free throw shooting, but 42% in the game is, and it was on a lot of attempts. It was miserable to watch. I'm not saying they can't do it, but when I've watched Syracuse of late, for example, when I watched them play North Carolina before preparing for the Duke game, they are a team that is the less, what is the saying? They're less than the sum of their parts. It's like their guys don't fit together. They've got individual talent, but it's like the team is just not coalescing. And I thought this year's Syracuse team could be like a bubble team, and they're a bit off from that right now. GMAT says they should have Khan do the men's figure skating final yesterday. I mean, Khan can do it all. That guy's incredible. He, I bet he doesn't fall. What was it, 2 or 3 times? Quad guy fell.
At least three. Even some of the jumps that he completed were not as didn't score as high as they normally would. His backflip was okay, not great. He was off.
Tropic Uniform. Still think our offense is evolving. We've got a few weeks left to start peaking before the tourneys start. Big win, though. This time of year, every game is critical. Want to get that number 1 seed. And most importantly, stay healthy. Couldn't agree more with that last point. I think that's why I brought up the end of the game, because they're just worried about health. Let's see. Michael Joyner, happy Valentine's Day and happy my birthday, which is today. Happy birthday to you, Michael. Happy birthday. Everyone wish Michael a happy birthday in the chat. Tropic Uniform. Evans was still 4 of 8. Not bad at all. 50%. Cam Boozer can def play at the next level. Kind of reminds me of Draymond Green. Not the most athletic, but a beast that can do a bit of everything. To be clear, I'm not saying he's as good as Draymond, but I can see the similarities. Trap Uniform, I typically agree with what you say, but on this one, I don't know, man. I size-wise, they're kind of similar, but I think they're very different players. I look at Cam more like a Kevin Love, Julius Randle kind of hybrid. A 6'8", 6'9" forward, who's I get the Randle part because of his strength, his ability to kind of bully his way inside. But then Kevin Love, especially later stage Kevin Love, with the shooting ability and the rebounding and the passing. I feel like Cam's passing, we haven't been, today there was a few good ones, to be clear, but there haven't been as many like, whoa, what a pass from Cam, quite as much in the past couple of weeks. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but I feel like some of that, honestly, is we haven't been hitting as many shots. So maybe it's like, oh, great pass, but it didn't end up as an assist kind of thing. It's part of it. Man, I don't know. I don't know about the Draymond thing. I can't get there. Joe M. Duke now has the most top 25 wins with 8. Arizona is next with 6. That is a great comment, Joe. Great stat. And I think, for as critical as we have been at times of this team, they have 8 top 25 wins. That's remarkable, They just find ways to win. They just do. And I can't wait to see. I gotta hold myself back. Can't wait to see Syracuse, is what you guys know I was gonna say there. Blue Devil 89 was expecting a much closer game. Glad the boys proved me wrong. Great game from Caden. Agreed, 100%. Laura says, on one of the podcasts I listened to, believes that Caleb may be avoiding driving so much because of his free throw shooting that he may try to avoid getting fouled. Interesting take. I know that's from the podcast that you listen to. What do you think of that, JD?
That's why I was, after we did some research and decided that, as a team, shooting 80% was, pretty, that's like the best you're going to do as a team, so that there's individual players that'll shoot lower. Some, like Evans will shoot almost 90%. But I think after today, Cam's closing in at 80% and getting better, and therefore I don't know why he would shy away from being fouled and winding up at the free throw line.
Caleb. All right, I'll take the question.
No, but I'm going to say the same thing. That if he's shooting near 77%.
No. All right, you're just completely missing the question here. I'm
It,
gonna ask the
it,
question to
it,
myself because
this is like, is this an issue of all the C names again?
I think you're having some trouble over there. I'll try. I'm gonna ask the question, but I'm also gonna answer at this point because we've listened to you talk about other people, and Laura asked the question about Caleb Foster. It's about Foster, and the question was, is he avoiding driving to the rim because he doesn't want to go to the free throw line? Because as you pointed out earlier, he's at what 56% from the free throw line. Is Foster Caleb Foster, to be clear?
But Caleb,
But
I don't know that he's.
I don't think that's the
I don't know
case.
that he's avoiding,
Right.
because there's plenty of games in which he is going to the rim and using the backboard really well.
Yeah.
I don't think he's avoiding it. I just think he's a horrible free throw shooter.
Okay. All right. You almost got to answering the question, but you're still a little bit off there. We'll have to move on. Um, Joe M. Caden, Foster, and Rippey will be really good next year. It'll be such a good backcourt. I'm really excited to see Rippey. I haven't watched a full game of his though, so I've only seen highlights. After this season, I'm good. That's when I typically will start looking at the high school games for the guys coming in next year. So I'm really excited to see what Rippey looks like. I know he's one of the better athletes that Duke has brought in, which is very exciting because this year's team doesn't have a lot of top tier athleticism on it. So,
but Jack, didn't we lose this week one
yeah,
of
we
our
did.
top
Well,
yeah.
we didn't lose him necessarily because he never committed to Duke, but he was certainly a top target. Jordan Smith Jr. Committed to Arkansas last night. For all the rumors about Darren Harris's lack of playing time, maybe having an impact on that, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not. I don't have conversations with the coaching staff to have any insight into whether that is a valid rumor or not. But all I can say is Darren Harris has played very sparingly this year, and I thought he would play more. And now Jordan Smith is not coming. But the flip side, Patrick Gongba has played a lot, and they're high school teammates. So who knows? Speaking of Pat, Lewis Gardner says Pat has to learn to stay out of foul trouble. It is now a thing. Unfortunately, Lewis, for Pat, it has been a thing going back to last year. There was just moments this year where I felt like not moments. I felt like he'd been doing a better job heading into the North Carolina game. And now today in the North Carolina game, I thought he got a couple of calls that went against him that I didn't think should have. But then I also feel like he should have made an adjustment. To your point, Lewis, of saying, okay, forget North Carolina. Today, the first one was not a foul. But the second one, yes, the guy was driving to the rim. Just let him score. Pat being on the court is more important than sending a guy to the free throw line in that instance. For late in the game, okay, take the foul. But we're still inside the first segment, so it's okay. Live to fight another day on that one. TGNC. I'm tired of complaining about Duke's inept offense. I'll wait until Michigan to see how we stack up against the best team in the country. Fair point there. Joe M. Good stats here from Joe. 7 conference wins with 60 points or less, tied for number 1 across 7 conference games. There we go. Okay, sorry, missed the correction there, Joe. 7 conference games holding opponents to 60 points or less. So over half of our conference games, we've held our opponent to less 60 points or fewer. That's damn impressive in a better ACC this year. Traffic uniform. Fair enough. Draymond can shoot, pass, and rebound. Was a beast on the block, but okay, maybe there are better comparisons out there. I respect you coming back, Tropic uniform. Michael Joyner. Good that Pat played today. Hamenia had quality minutes today. He sure did. It's good to get Pat out there. Traffic uniform. Go back to Draymond thing. I'm not saying they're an exact match, but Draymond, people also said wasn't very athletic, but he still took it to the next level. Cam is a bit bigger than Draymond, but they are still similar in my opinion. I think for me, I guess going back to that, the biggest difference is I feel like Draymond is an outstanding defender, and his game is defense first, and then he'll rebound and pass. Cam is an offensive juggernaut, really, and he can defend, and they both can pass really well. But I just think stylistically they just are just different players, somewhat similarly sized, but I think Cam is bigger. I can understand some of where you're coming from, Trappic Uniform, but I just think on your other point, I think there's just better comps out there. Joe M. Calipari strikes again. The guy is a really good recruiter. I know you don't like him, JD. I like him.
Hate him.
I like him more. But boy, the guy can recruit. He's done it now for like 30 years. The guy's a tremendous recruiter.
Look, two of the reasons that the biggest reason is the number of players he puts in the NBA. And that's why good players want to play for him. And the second one, which I'll never know, I mean, I'm not a fan of Calipari's, is maybe playing for him in college is a good thing. Maybe players like to play for him.
I mean, the amount of guys who are in the NBA that played for him at Kentucky is wild. The one thing is that it's so many of them play better in the NBA than they did for him in college, which may go to his recruiting is probably better than his coaching. But the thing with Jordan Smith, which is why I understood him delaying his commitment, and I understand. I'm not mad at him for making this decision. You look at Duke. I think there's a decent chance that Caden and Caleb come back. They're not going to the NBA, so the only place they would go is the portal. But I think they would come back. I can't get to 100% in this era, but I'd say like 80% confidence. And then you also have Daron Rippey coming in, so you've got 3 guards. Now Jordan Smith is a top 5 recruit, so he's going to play. But going to Arkansas, Darius Acuff is gone. He's going to the NBA. And so there's a very clear path for him to be the number 1 guy at Arkansas, which wasn't quite the case for him going to Duke. And I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense for him to go there. Trying to look at it objectively. Sure, as a Duke fan, I would have loved to have all the riches and get Jordan Smith and everything, but I understand his decision. A few more. Blue Devil, 89. Rippey's only downside may be his shooting, but he's time to work on that. Not mad about losing Jordan Smith Jr. at all. Yeah, from what I've seen, I don't think Rippey's a great shooter, so the combination of him and Caden, who's not a great shooter, I'm not so sure on, but we will have a full summer to talk about that. AJ1 losing Smith to Arkansas is no big deal. We will have Foster and Boozer coming back. I can't see any of them leaving, or they shouldn't. And Tropic Uniform said there's always the transfer portal too. And then we'll close up with Jeremy Farrell. Happy Valentine's Day. Duke did a good job today. Good defense, good passing the ball. Good to see Patrick Gongba out there. He needs to be careful with that foul trouble. Yeah.
Not entirely his fault, but yes.
We just need we need him out there.
All right.
All right, JD. So we'll be back tomorrow with the preview for the Syracuse game, which will be Monday night. Looking forward to that. And we will see you guys certainly post-game live after the Syracuse game. So until then, peace.